We are live!
Woo!
Hello, everybody! And we're so excited. Obviously, this live is to talk about the Goddess Gathering tour around Scotland that these, us three goddesses, are so excited about. We wanted to come on here today to chat a little bit about what we're doing, what we're thinking, why we've got together, why we feel this is important, and what does entering the field of inner knowing even mean. So we're here to answer all your questions. We're going to have a bit of a chat on, why together we feel. Well, what we discussed when this idea kind of came through me was we want to do something a bit different. We want to really empower people. We know the magnificence of the human existence and the body, etc. And but we also know all the challenges because we've all been working in this field for a long time. Plus, we all are women. We know what it's like to go through most of the things that women go through. So we wanted to create something that really was like, this is what you can do when you get home. Here are the tools that you can use. This has been our experience. This is what we've seen with our clients, and this is how we really feel is the way ahead, which is that everything, all the intelligence, all the information is really there. And when we can unhook from the story out there and from the past conditionings, etc., that all the answers that we need are there. But I think, I'm sure you guys feel similar to me, it's about trust. Who do we trust in the crazy times we're living in? What news station do we trust? What politicians can we trust? And what medicine, Scotland's wild medicine, pharmaceutical medicines, or a bit of both? Where, what information can we really take into our lives in order to keep ourselves and our families' selves well? So, without any more ado, I've got Julie Foobster here and Jennifer Main. So let's just start with you, Julie, because you're going to be coming. Well, we'll be doing the opening ceremony in a little bit of a surprise, and then you're going to be coming on first on the Saturday, all through the country. So, but kicking off in Edinburgh. So, just introduce yourself and what. Tell them a little bit about your perception of entering the field.
Yeah, so I'm basically going to be there as the lay person, that's had the experience of a cancer diagnosis and various other things, and how I've managed to sort of navigate that. And so, yeah, I'll just be sharing a bit of my story, but then in a practical, kind of down to earth way, trying to explain where I've come to at this point, how I've come to see the things that I see, and explaining some of the misunderstandings that I've had through my life and through this sort of healing journey. So yeah, it's, for me, it's kind of just, there's so much information out there, it's so bamboozling. What I've come to find to be true is that the route in is actually finding what's in here, right? So that connection to in here is the fastest and easiest way to start healing, because you will then get the most valid information. We're always looking outside of ourselves to find all the answers. And yes, we do find out answers outside of ourselves, but after we connect in here first. And I didn't get that for a long time. I didn't really understand the connection with the body and everything. I just didn't get it. So I was always looking outside of myself. So I'm just going to do a bit of a talk and a bit of a workshop to sort of, I'm doing something that'll hopefully visually help people understand what it is that I'm talking about, and how to tap into that source, or how to recognize when you're sitting in that source, because sometimes we're in it but we don't recognize that we're in it. So yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah, and I think in Kelly Turner's book Radical Remissions, that was the one thing that I interviewed Kelly at a Goddess Gathering, and
Oh, brilliant.
what one of the things was that she said, regardless of sex, age, nationality, the thing that surprised her most that everybody said was they listened to the voice in their head. or a version of what we would call listening to your intuition. So fantastic. And I think, because you have had the practical experience of going through the diagnosis, etc., you're talking from a place of knowing, because I think it's like, I used to say this when I worked with recovering addicts. I said, you think you need to have been a drug addict to be able to work with recovering addicts? And this guy said to me, no, it's not necessary, but it's very helpful.
Yeah.
Because you genuinely then do know how people feel. So thank you for that. And I think as we're big into prevention and also big into education, inspiration and support, of course, that's our motto, is that if that diagnosis or any kind of diagnosis, because to me it's all the same thing, the body's knocking, and you've got two options then, how you deal with that. And the more educated you are, if you were ever to go into that position of getting some kind of diagnosis, then you're going, right, okay. And what you do is help people with a plan, because it's indecision, isn't it, that drives you crazy, the not knowing what to eat, the not knowing what to do, that stalls you into inaction.
Exactly.
So fantastic. Jennifer, tell us
Hello.
about your magic.
Yeah, so I mean, my background is I'm a healer at heart and highly intuitive, highly sensitive, very psychic, intuitive, whatever terminology you want to use for that. For me, they're the same thing. And what I have found over the years is that people are highly afraid of their intuition for loads and loads of reasons. History, it's not part of the family culture, or they just don't understand how to recognize the way their own intuition works and the senses that they are more tuned into. And so there's this belief that, oh, I'm not intuitive, other people are. And that's where we falter and where we make a mess, and why we do want to get all the other advice, the thousands of options out there, and then feel lost in that. So a lot of the work I do is about kind of demystifying those perceptions or beliefs around what intuitive means, and helping people, resolve those fears so that they can then go into those aligned states where they really can tune in to what they are receiving. And whether some people are very visual, so they see the answers or they see the story. Some people are more auditory, so they will hear answers or music or whatever, whatever that is. Some people are very kinesthetic and they are able to feel what is more aligned with them. And also some people just have a really strong knowing. But it's kind of that differentiating between the intellect and the mind and the subconscious and the ego of the I am right about this. Oh, sorry. This started happening a couple of weeks ago. I just, whatever setting it's on, I just leave it because it's amazing. Sometimes we get fireworks. Sometimes we get balloons. We get a thumbs up. It's so fun.
Probably getting a download there.
Yeah.
Balloon download.
And it's always at the perfect time. So I love it. But yeah, so it's kind of being able to understand how you yourself gets that, and also be able to develop that. So it's not something you do just sometimes, but it's recognizing that our intuition is part of who we are, because we are energetic beings. So of course we can read energy. Of course we can receive things on an energetic level. So yeah, so the stuff I'm going to be doing is helping to resolve any misunderstandings and fears around that, and also do some practices and exercises, just some short things to help you get a feel for what that's like, so that you can then continue to develop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the way I always talk about it. It's the feeling, isn't it? It's the experiencing it. Now, we know perfectly well we can get people together and make them feel better. That goes without saying. But what we really want to do with this tour is to set these little seeds back out into the community, where people that really truly understand that it is a practice. Yeah. And anything that we do, you can go to the gym, you can go on a yoga retreat, but if you don't build it into your practice, that's really where the magic does start to happen. And certainly, obviously, for people that don't know me, my big passion is letting go. I've even put that into my name. Much as somebody thought I'd married a Spaniard and it was Latigo.
I love that.
We went into my brother's work and said, "Did Lilia get married?" My brother's response was hilarious. He said, "I hope so." He said, I'm pretty sure I would have known if Lilia got married. Why are you asking that? And he said, well, she's changed her name to a Spanish name. So there you go. So letting go for me, obviously when it comes, I mean, I think primarily the people I work with have been diagnosed terminal or incurable. So we're looking at massive kind of changes in belief systems and unhooking from stories in the past, etc. But when I actually learned my first release technique, which was the Sedona method, I was in Sedona in Arizona. And it was money worries was really my biggest, which I find quite funny now, actually. But at the time, it was very real, and I carried the weight of it in my body. So I think probably whether it's your finances, your health, or your wealth, or your relationships, which is another area, obviously, to balance to give your immune system back its power, because I always say that all that really as healers we do is we help people to rebalance the inner verse, so that the body can actually do the healing which it is designed innately to do. So, but this particular tour, obviously I'm bringing in some of our energy technology, which is the biofield viewer, and you'll be able to see the electromagnetic field and how things affect that actually with your own two eyes in real time. And but the other thing that we have is been able to do a group voice print at the Goddess Gathering, and then have a sound healing specifically for that group. So I was just blasting it out down there. I did it with a group last week for the first time, and it was just magical. So sound healing, which we all love, right? I mean, who doesn't love sound healing? But the fact that this is kind of tailored to the individual people in that room is pretty cool and exciting. So yeah, so I think it's exciting for me to be in Edinburgh, for the first gathering. And we're going to have that magical first day. We decided as well, rather than to have too many taster sessions, to have like a mini retreat where we're really taking people in and through the journey into the field of inner knowing. And I think you said something there, Jen. I know that I sat in front of people before, they said, everything you need is in here. And you're kind of like, I don't understand what that means. What does that mean? And it's only, well, I think, again, I had a very strong experience when I created the community in Barmolloch. That idea definitely was not mine. Because I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not coming back to Scotland. I'm not working with people I don't know. I'm not doing this. But it just was like, this is what's happening. And that was really my first real experience of like, what the hell? Who is this that's doing the insisting? So I think, getting into that, well, we're all talking about the same thing, aren't we? That really, when the overwhelm out here is too much, what can we do? We can go inside. So and also another thing is that we're all a work in progress. We're going to learn so much from this tour as well. And we hope, we know people are going to garner so much. But it's that ongoing journey, isn't it, to the place that you never actually really arrive.
Yeah.
But getting the experience. So what would you say, Jennifer, are things for you that, because even since we spoke last, you've done God knows how much training. And I know you've been the same, Julie. So what would you say is the kind of main thing right now that's kind of in your focus that that you put some focus on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, everything, and I'm going to nick this from Ram Dass because I like the way he puts this. So I've been taught in lots of modalities and philosophies, it's that everything's an opportunity to learn. There's a lesson in it. And that is true. I do believe that. I think there's an opportunity to learn and grow. But what Ram Dass says, which is a nice switch or upgrade maybe, is that he stopped looking at it as lessons and he looks at these as opportunities for awakening. Like what a difference in that feel, right? So it's really kind of saying, okay, if this experience or this relationship or this illness is trying to awaken something within me, what is it that's ready to awaken that I've been sitting on, dismissing, pushing away? So for me, it's really kind of what are the things, the practices, the tools? What can I develop within myself that makes that awakening journey easier, so that it's not something that's so difficult? It's not a drama. It's not a breakdown. It's not something that's so dramatic, because when it gets that dramatic, it's usually there have been the signs and we've ignored it. So yeah, so it's how do we make that awakening process that much more graceful? And that is through intuition, and it is through addressing our choices and our relationships and allowing ourselves to be more in flow. Yeah.
And would you say, Julie, this is maybe more directed at you, because I know you were a single parent. I'm not sure if you still are, but women dealing, because it's a head heart thing, isn't it? We're trying to listen to what the heart's saying, but you're like that. Well, I've got to get kids to school. I've got to get dinner. I've got to do the washing. I've got to do this, and then there's after school, and then there's next week there's that, and so. Do you think part of the issue is we're too much in our head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, because I was thinking earlier before it came on that there was a study done. I can't remember the guy's name, but I was trying to look it up. But basically, it's about exceptional cancer patients, like people who, against all odds, survive or go on to live a very, very long time. And this study was based around what, they asked them lots of questions and figured out what were the main things that allowed them to survive for a long time. And the ones was, it all came down to purpose. It pretty much, these people that had lived much longer all had a really strong sense of purpose. And I hear a lot of people say, well, my purpose is my family, my children, and doing all those things. And it is, and I know this because I've got a beautiful 13-year-old boy, and he is so important to me. But part of the issue is that we put ourselves on hold for the people that we're looking after, and we think that if we are around to look after them, that secures our place in this earth. But it's not like that. It's the purpose is allowing what wants to manifest through you, letting that manifest, right? So it's about tapping into what it is you're supposed to be doing here, and that might all sound a wee bit out there and woo-woo and stuff.
Away, Jen. Take it away.
Yeah.
That's your thing, isn't it, Jen?
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in those, that sense of identity. Our subconscious mind loves to have a sense of identity and wants to know who we are. And so we'll use relationships or things to define that. But when it's not working, we're hesitant to let that change because it's given us a role, a job. It's given us love or affection. It's given us attention. But the reality is that all those things will then limit us in some way if we're caught in a way that is an obligation or moving into kind of a burden. And it, exactly as Julie's saying, is when you forget yourself. And I really feel that we as souls choose our dharma and choose what we're here to do and be. So it's not like there's some weird God telling you what to do. I don't think there's anything pulling the strings. We're not puppets. We've chosen this. Like, we've come here to do it. And I think people can also become very overwhelmed. They think it's going to be too hard, or that they have to do it on their own, or, again, these are all just belief systems based on what we've seen or witnessed. There's reasons for it. But actually, when we allow ourselves to release those obligations and step into our dharma, that is when we are most fulfilled, we are most healthy, we are most joyful, when we are of greatest service to the world.
Yes. And I think that's I think a lot about our older people and, looking after them and who should be looking after them. And I suppose it's that kind of fine balance between duty, love and care, but also, strangling your own life force, I suppose, at the same time. It's all this about this delicate balance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about...
Oh, sorry, Lilia.
No, carry on.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, and I would also play with that word duty, because that then becomes the obligation of I have to do this, or I should do this, or I ought to do this. And anytime we're including those words, there's an unhealthiness there. So for me, it's about, okay, well, what do I need to resolve within myself so that it's no longer a duty and something that I'm choosing to do because it really does feel aligned, and or I find ways for other people to support and help with this. So it is not just me doing it. So I think there's a few ways to go about it. But yeah, when we get into the duty and the obligation, I have to do this, that's where I would say step back and see if there are other options or opportunities.
Yeah, well, I don't see duty as a negative. I don't have a connotation.
Gotcha.
I suppose, but it's not. I totally. It's not the best word.
I get you there.
I'm not sure what the word would be, but because I think we need more of responsibility as humans for looking after each other, because I think we've all just going, oh, I'm too tired, I can't do it, and it's kind of like we left it all to the government, and look where we are. So I would say that healing, and certainly from my perspective and what I'm observing, is it's being able to take that responsibility back firmly to you. But that doesn't mean to say, like you just said there, that you do it alone. Not at all. You should never be trying to do anything alone, unless you absolutely choose that you need that time out. But certainly, and that's what I would like to do now, is start putting people together. I've said this for years. We need something like the AA model, where people, because we can't not talk about money when it comes to health, because everybody's got bills to pay. It drives me insane when people say, "That's too expensive," when I know how much free time and stuff I give away. But I do understand that not everybody can afford. I can't afford everything, so that's just fine. You just do the things you can afford. But now there is that absolute, we've got so much information at our fingertips that really, we can access a lot of phenomenal information without having to pay, thanks to the internet, and probably really cool people in your community as well. But maybe more organised, a more organised structure of a place where people can turn up and go and say, right, okay, I'm dealing with this issue, whether it's depression, whether it's fibromyalgia, which is another huge issue, type 2 diabetes, obviously cancer. So we just have a chat. Although I would say, in my experience with the community, is having too many sick people together, can be a challenge as well. So it's again finding the balance, because we don't want victim consciousness and sort of like, I'm helpless, because I think you can still go, right, well, I'm actually probably had enough time here. I'll just check out, and what do I want to do before I do it? So it's the whole graceful kind of approach to how we're living, and how we want to die, which is a conversation that nobody wants to have. And do you think that's maybe one of the big problems, is the fear around, I don't know, death? What even is it? Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem, is this fear of death, and like not talking about it, because we're all running from something we don't even really take time to think about or understand, or and we don't sit in it, and we don't even ask, well, what is it you're actually frightened of? It's just surrounded in this ball of fear that we just go, no. But like, what are you frightened of? And I think when you sit in it and you break it down a little bit, you can see that there's practical things that you can do as well around that to ease the fear, so just talking about it helps.
I think
Joanna was diagnosed, and she was only 16. And I'm quite a practical person, so I was like, well, what's so terrible about this? Why is this bringing me so much emotional pain? And I thought, one, I don't want to see her suffer. And two, I didn't want her to die. So I was like, right, okay, what can you do about the suffering? There's certain things that you can maybe assist with that. But what I have no control over, the death thing. So then that's what really set me down that, well, what even is it? And then you're like that going, looks like it's fine.
Something that I am totally obsessed with right now, and have been for a while, is Pluto cycles and death practices. And so it's the notion of endings and beginnings. And actually, if you want a beginning, there's got to be an ending. So there is a death in that. And so it's really about, how do we look at that word death? Because there are aspects and roles and stuff dying within us all the time, behaviors and habits dying all the time. So how can we kind of reframe that and welcome in those endings so that it's not something we're fighting or running away from, and it's something we can recognize that it's just part of the cycles of life and living. Yeah, I could talk about this all day. I won't. Yeah, I love this topic.
Let's talk about it, in the not too distant future, because I think it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also is like this sort of, I said it in my talk last time, is that we have this idea that people should be living to a certain age, or they should have this certain lifespan, and if they don't, they've been cheated somehow, and it's wrong, and it's and we're just sitting completely in resistance to that. And that's where all our personal pain from somebody dying comes from, is it shouldn't be happening, but who are we to say?
I know. Well, I had a situation recently where somebody that I would consider, a friend now, an acquaintance certainly, told me that her son had died. And then she immediately apologised and said, "Oh, I don't know why I told you that." And I was like, "Of course you should tell me that. That's a huge." She said, "Well," and she said, "Well, some people don't like it. They don't." I said, "Well, I'm not one of them." The family constellations, the family system, he's there, so and it was just nice for her to be able to talk about it, because it is still in our culture that don't talk about it. Oh, I can't bear to think about that. It's too sad. It's too, and that, of course, is just doing that, isn't it? It's pushing it down, and it's going to come back up at some point, because you're just still trying to head on. It's not there. It's just like when I sort of started really looking into who knows what happens when you die, but certainly I've read enough about it, and I've all the Anita Moorjani, Lorraine Day, people who real kind of went and then came back, and then obviously just the quantum physics of, well, where do you think energy is going to go? It's just going to go somewhere else. So I thought, well, there's no such thing as death, and there's no really such a thing as linear time. What are we worrying about? Imagine you could just let go of these two things. They're just constructs. Oh my God, think of the suffering that would just dissolve.
And I think what fits in perfectly with your let it go stuff, Lilia, is, with the idea of death practices, it is that you die before you die. So you just let yourself die to the things you are clinging to, the relationships, the identities. You let that die, and then you lose your fear, because there's less to lose because you've already allowed that to evolve and change.
100%. I mean, I think when I had the luxury of being in Sedona twice, and so spending 14 hours a day letting go. And on the second time, which was a 9-day advanced course with then at the end a 3-day coach level 2. And when we were doing the coach level 2, we'd been letting go, and then suddenly I just was like, and I just saw. And I was working with this guy, and he had the exact same experience, exact same time, and the two of us started laughing like hysterically. And then, and all this, I was like, how can I be so stupid? How did I think that? What? Oh my God. And it was like somebody had just lifted, you just became pure energy, and you realised, this whole density wasn't, just wasn't even real. But there was another girl watching us, and she was like, what are you two laughing at? But she hadn't done the 9-day releasing, but she'd just come in for coach level 2. She wasn't in that amazing space that we were in. But meantime, over on the other side of the room, people were crying and breaking their hearts, because they were like, but I went to university for 100 years, and I read all these books, and I just found it hilarious. Some people found it. But when all that moved, the laughing and the crying stopped, we all came back to this place of like, thank God for that. Yeah. That is just so incredibly, incredibly powerful. But of course, then you go back into life, don't you? And you and this is the whole thing. You need to keep brushing your teeth. You need to keep letting go. You need to keep on it. Otherwise, you're gathering. I always say it's like putting your bin out. Just put your bin out every night, so that you're not holding on and gathering and dragging the past around with you. And why do you think it's so hard to let go? Any of you, what would you say? Why do you think we hang on to the past?
I think we work so hard to build an identity so that we feel that we know who we are. We feel that we know the roles we're supposed to play. We're going to fit into society. We're going to have a place. We're going to be secure and accepted. And anytime you start to challenge a label, I mean, it could even be like when I left my last job, I was in meltdown the last week, even though I knew it was the right thing to do, because part of me was going, what am I going to tell people I do? I don't know how to explain that. And I was so proud of that job. And so just releasing that label was I was grieving it. I went through a grieving process with it. And so I think as we work through our attachments to those things, it becomes easier and easier. But especially when you really are set on, okay, this tells me who I am and how I'm supposed to behave, it's difficult. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've often wondered why we hold on. And I thought as well, there's a lot of things that are very handy. For example, walking, talking. So I'm assuming it shouldn't be too easy to let go of things if all of a sudden we're lying in a heap on the floor, having let go of how to talk and walk. So that's how my conscious mind likes to try and make stories up that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose we have to be sure, right, this is the time, and I think it's timing, don't you? It's a timing thing. And I think right now we're in a place where that kind of lightness, the frequencies are changing. I think everybody can feel the changes that are going on right now, even if you don't know what they are, even if we don't know how it's going to unfold. Most of us are having that, that real shift in awareness and consciousness and understanding. And, I find myself going from like laughing to crying. Like, wah! And I always go back to Joe Dispenza's get very comfortable with the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie, don't you think that's one of the biggest challenges if you get a diagnosis? And it doesn't need to be a cancer one, it can be any.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is this body doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the unknown is just what gets people. But the thing is, and this is what I remind people of, we've never known. We've actually never known. And our brain is constantly trying to figure things out to keep us safe. That's what the brain does. It's its job. So that's why it comes up with all these different things, because it's assessing the situation, assessing the environment, try to keep us safe, But we've actually never ever known. And so the best place to be is in the present moment. The best place to live is in the here and now, because that's getting rid of some of this looking out for all the dangers and things.
Yeah, I know it, absolutely. Is there a problem in this moment? No.
Yeah.
Stay there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
your mind's like, but what if? And you're projecting into, because I think we're very impatient as well, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of want to know now. Is it going to work? Is it going to be, it's that whole kind of uncertainty. And I think, again, going back to Joe, that's the thing we'll do a lot of that. At the end is just like, it's okay, because it's all about feeling safe, isn't it?
It is all about feeling safe. But the thing is, if you learn to be okay in this moment, then you are safe. If you're safe in this moment, then that's actually all that really matters here and now, because it's all of that stuff that makes us feel like we're fearful, which changes the chemistry, which contributes to the chronic stress and all of that. So if we can,
And I think this is the thing that we know, that, obviously food is medicine. I think most people have a basic understanding of that. But the stress really is the thing that is now causing so much of the suffering, and also depressing immune system. So let's talk a little bit about our guests that we've got coming with us in Edinburgh. Phenomenal lineup. So we've got Monica Wilde, who lived on forage foods alone for a year. Do you guys know Monica?
No.
So she is She's a total leader and legend in her field. I've never met her in person. I'm very excited to meet her in person. So obviously we know and big into the plants, wild medicine and all its, myriad of forms. Vida B's coming, who Vida does family constellations, but she's also doing this thing that you will absolutely love, the new story. And she's been training with a woman in Australia who I'm going to do a podcast with as well. And it's like it's already here, and it's a perception, right? And so, but also in how we can unhook the ancestral trauma and have a real kind of bird's eye view of why things unfolded the way that they did. And, I've done a few retreats with Vida, and I'm constantly amazed at how you step into the shoes of your ancestors, and it's letting go and just watch the process, the role play, because it's like you put the body into the position, and then the body, because it's so intelligent, obviously. So Vida's going to be there. Joe Wolf, who is a German new medicine practitioner. You know Joe, Jennifer?
I through online stuff. I don't think we've ever met in person, but yeah, I'm aware of her.
I know she's definitely, she's a phenomenal, and she's done another 2 modalities, which is really about the emotional root cause, which I think is probably the biggest problem in our current allopathic system, is that we're not looking, let's face it, to look at what, is there something in the past that the body's held and is still vibrating away, causing havoc for the immune system. So she's going to be there talking about that. We've obviously got Julia Square. They're just back from Mexico, and they're going to be doing a sound bath. So we'll get to see the energy moving with that. So, I mean, it's just a phenomenal lineup. I can't wait. And also what we know is it's the people that come as well, the people that are called to come into that beautiful space. And that's how the magic happens, because we facilitate, and then it's just, it always blows me away what comes up when a lot of women get together, because you can see it all over the world, actually, women's circles, women's empowerment groups, and men's, which is brilliant to see as well. But primarily the women are really getting stirred up, and you can really see the movements. It's fantastic. Janice Klein's doing a brilliant job with Nourished by Nature. She's really teaching people how to prepare nutrient dense food. Sharon Tate, amazing following, and we've got these people all over the country doing fantastic work. So calling in all these leaders and really getting the job done, I just think it's just going to be phenomenal. So is there anything you guys would like to add? I mean, what about Julie? I mean, for anybody who's listening that maybe has had a diagnosis, it's because I think when I met you and you sat and read your story out of that book, I was just like, my God, this is so practical and helpful for people, and I think that's what you need. It's like, this is what you need to do, because if you get a diagnosis that's terrifying, we all know the brain just goes into, you can't think, you can't learn, you can't listen, you can't make decisions, because that is not the state for doing these things. So it's really helpful if somebody can, make you feel like, calm down. Let's let's really make a plan. I think that is so powerful, because I know when I was doing Gerson, the thing about Gerson is black and white. Can you eat that? No. Can you eat that? Yes. These are the things you eat. You keep away from this. So it's the lines are clear. Whether you choose to blur them or not, because humans always do. How much can you cheat? Could I just have this, please? No, stick to it. And that's, I don't know how things are with you guys, but giving people home play to do, as Aga calls it, really now we need people that are going to step up and do the home play. And that's what we really bring into this tour that we're going on, is tools for you to take home and just become freer and lighter and be able, because I mean, obviously, when I wrote down the goal, I want to help raise the vibration of the planet. In my conscious mind, I could see individual souls raising their own vibration, and then when enough do that, it helps everyone else. So when we get together and we create that power grid, then everybody in the vicinity benefits. And part of me did think, That doesn't seem very fair. But they just hang out and then get a ride on everybody else's energy. But now I'm like, no, because some people just are not in a place to do that. They don't have the energy, they don't have the support, whatever the reason. It's in everybody's best interest. So the people that are strong enough to take control, to move into that leadership role, to show up, because I think energy that goes to any kind of retreat or workshop deserves a big pat in the back, because even that can take courage if you've not been feeling great. So yeah, I'm just so excited to get together and get this on the road.
Yeah, me too.
So Julie, for anybody watching, if anybody wants to talk to Julie, I'll put some. I'll put your contact details.
Yeah.
And same for you, Jen. If anybody wants to contact you, then they can do that. And unless if you guys get anything else to add before we, we are 45 minutes in. That's fine. Before we kind of round this up.
No, I would just like to say, from a person who, I went to Goddess Gathering last year. I was there to do a talk, but I also, took part in all of the things. And just from somebody who was there as a participant too, I just want to say everyone is such a down-to-earth, practical, lovely weekend. Sometimes these things, if you've never been to something like this before, you can think, you don't know what to expect, and you can think that it's maybe not for you, or you'll feel out of place or whatever, but everyone's just so lovely. So if you're sitting on the fence, then just go for it, because it'll be a great weekend.
There's the button.
Yeah.
Jen, have you got anything to add? Because you've been together with me since the very first Goddess Gathering.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, arrive with an open mind and an open heart, and just a willingness to be with it. And I think that's when we have the biggest shifts and the biggest changes, is when we're not trying to control it, we're just surrendering and allowing. So yeah, it's definitely going to have some fun, but if there's some things you want to shift in your life, arrive with that intention.
Intention.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And I think as women, it's like, I just want to be slim and beautiful. It's like, well, what does that even mean? And it's really helpful to go, well, what do you want to improve in your life? Is it your relationships? Is it your health? Is it your wealth? Because to me, it's all the same thing. It's just where you focus and attention.
We've got this Taurus eclipse tomorrow, and Taurus is all about quality of life. Like, you can boil it down to that. What's the quality of life you want to lead? What's the quality of relationships you want to have? How do you want to spend your time? How do you want to use your energy? Yeah. So that word quality, I find, gets us out of a lot of the trying to manifest and figure out and all that, and just get really clear on that.
Fantastic. I like that quality of life. And so, when do people come to you for a course of sessions, Jen? How does it work with you?
So I am redoing my entire business model right now. So very briefly, what's going to happen is people can book in as and when they want. I do have clients that do that. I'm also going to be launching a new kind of membership course hybrid for seasonally. And we're actually going to start in the winter with intuition. So there's going to be seasonal events like equinox, solstice, eclipses, things like that. But also we're going to meet as a group, and we're really going to work through these topics. So you've got a community and you've got a clear focus for the season. And I'm also going to be launching an apprenticeship, which I'm so excited about too. So that is for healing practitioners, spiritual leaders and teachers, people in leadership roles who this is what I would have liked to have had 10 years ago. So it's the people who are doing the courses, who are starting their practices, who want to show up and be really of service, that really want to be aligned with their Dharma, but they're working through their own stuff. They're not sure about how to set those things up. So a lot of there will be healing involved with that. It's also kind of understanding kind of laws of the universe and how that comes into it, and how you can take your experiences and really turn that into medicine and wisdom for your people. So that should all be hopefully on my website sooner than later. But yeah, I'm excited about it all.
Brilliant.
That's a brilliant idea, because there's so many, bits and pieces, but to pull it all together, absolutely brilliant. Cool. Well, we'll put all the information in the box, and please come and join us, Edinburgh, the 5th and 6th of November.
4th and 5th.
4th and 5th. I know.
Saturday, Sunday. Come on, Saturday, Sunday.
A week tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and then 2 weeks after that, we're in Glasgow, Saturday, Sunday, and then next year we're in Aberdeen, Dundee, and Inverness. So fantastic. Well, listen, guys, thanks for taking the time, and I will chat to you real soon. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll answer the questions afterwards if anybody's put anything in the box. Thank you. Ciao.
Okay. Bye.